The call from the stars. The signal arrived on a Tuesday, not with a dramatic crash or a blinding flash of light, but quietly, detected first by a university radio telescope in the Australian outback. Within hours, every major observatory on Earth had confirmed it. A tightly beamed transmission directed specifically our solar system. For 3 days, the world's best cryptographers and linguists worked without rest, translating what would become the most important message humanity had ever received. When they finally succeeded, the content shocked everyone who heard it. To the emerging civilization of Earth, we, the Nerethi Dominion, face imminent extinction. Our fleets are decimated. Our worlds burn. The enemy adapts to all our defenses. We have observed your species and believe your unique cognitive patterns may succeed where we have failed. We request immediate military assistance. Coordinates follow. The message repeated on a loop, accompanied by streams of technical data, star charts, tactical information, and specifications for faster-than-light communication. Most disturbing were the attached visuals. Massive crystalline ships shattered like glass, planets with continent-sized scorch marks, and strange, shifting shadows that seemed to consume everything they touched. General Elena Santos, chair of Earth's United Defense Council, studied the holographic projections in the Pentagon's secure briefing room. "And we're certain this isn't a hoax?" she asked, though she already knew the answer. "The signal originates 87 light-years away," replied Dr. Takahashi, NASA's lead xenocommunication specialist. "It contains technical data centuries beyond our understanding, yet perfectly compatible with our receiving equipment. Someone out there knows us very well." Admiral Chen, the UDC's tactical advisor, crossed his arms. "The question isn't whether it's real. It's why we should help these Nerethi. According to the data they've sent, they're a Type Io civilization. They've had interstellar travel for millennia. They must have countless allies." "Had," corrected Dr. Takahashi. "Their communications indicate most of their allied systems have already fallen. What's attacking them appears to be some sort of adaptive entity. They call it the Void Swarm." On the main screen, the recorded footage showed what looked like living darkness, a roiling mass of particle-like entities that moved with disturbing coordination, flowing around energy shields, through armor plating, and into ship systems. "This enemy learns," continued Takahashi. "Every weapon the Nerethi deploy works once, maybe twice, before the swarm adapts. Their technological approach is failing because it's too predictable." General Santos leaned forward. "And they think we can help. Us? We haven't even established a permanent moon base." Dr. Takahashi nodded. "That's precisely why. The message specifically mentions human unpredictability, creativity under pressure, and our inefficient but innovative problem-solving methods." A bitter laugh erupted from Admiral Chen. "So the advanced alien civilization that's probably been watching us for centuries considers us useful savages. How flattering." "This isn't about flattery," Santos replied sharply. "If this void swarm has consumed most of the Nerethi territory, how long until it reaches us? We're talking about an existential threat." The debate raged for weeks across Earth's governments. Many argued that humanity should focus on its own defenses rather than sending help to an unknown civilization. Others saw opportunity in the technological exchange the Nerethi offered in return for assistance. Religious leaders questioned the theological implications, scientists debated the physics, and military strategists calculated the odds. In the end, it was neither politics nor strategy that tipped the scales, but the final images from the Nerethi transmission, footage of civilian evacuation ships being consumed by the darkness, families huddled together in their final moments. For all their technological advancement, they died just like humans would, afraid and desperately trying to protect their children. Earth would respond. The newly christened Earth defense ship Prometheus carried humanity's response team, a carefully selected group of military personnel, scientists, engineers, and even a few unconventional thinkers, with specialties ranging from game theory to improvisational theater. The Nerethi had provided plans for a dimensional fold drive that allowed for faster-than-light travel. Human engineers had built it in under 6 months, a feat that should have taken decades. Captain Amara Okafor stood on the bridge of the Prometheus as the stars blurred around them. "Status report," she demanded, her voice steady despite the nausea that accompanied their 5th jump in 3 days. "All systems nominal, Captain," replied Commander Jackson, her executive officer. "We'll reach the rendezvous coordinates in approximately 30 minutes. Okafor nodded. "And our passenger?" Jackson grimaced slightly. "The Nerethi emissary is uncomfortable with our modifications to their technology, but grudgingly impressed we got it working at all." When Earth had received the transmission, the Nerethi had dispatched a small stealth craft carrying a single diplomat to guide humanity's response. The emissary, who called himself Sentinel Verex, was nearly 3 meters tall with iridescent skin that shifted between deep purple and midnight blue. His elongated limbs moved with unsettling precision, and 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern took in everything with calculating intensity. "Emerging from dimensional fold in 3, 2, 1, announced the navigator. The starfield reappeared, and there was a collective gasp on the bridge. Before them hung the shattered remains of what must have been a mighty fleet. Massive ships, some larger than Earth's largest cities, drifted in pieces. Corpses, unmistakably Nerethi, floated among the debris. And at the center of the destruction waited a single badly damaged Nerethi command vessel. "Receiving transmission from the Ascendancy vessel," reported the communications officer. The main view screen flickered to life, revealing a Nerethi bridge far more austere than the Prometheus. The aliens moved with mathematical precision, their stations arranged in perfect geometric patterns. Their leader, identified by elaborate markings on her skin, spoke directly to Captain Okafor. "I am High Commander Zyvex of the Nerethi Dominion. You have our gratitude for responding to our distress call, though I confess surprise that your species managed to construct a functional fold drive so quickly." Okafor straightened. "High Commander, I'm Captain Amara Okafor of Earth. We've brought engineers, scientists, and combat specialists as requested. We're prepared to assist against the Void Swarm." The Nerethi commander's 4 eyes blinked in sequence. A gesture Sentinel Verex had explained indicated skepticism. "Captain, with all due respect to your species' courage, this conflict has decimated civilizations far more advanced than yours. The Void Swarm has adapted to technologies you cannot begin to comprehend." "With equal respect, Commander," Okafor replied. "That's precisely why we're here. You didn't call us for our technology. You called us because we think differently." High Commander Zyvex made a gesture that their cultural briefing identified as reluctant agreement. "Indeed, our combat analysts have observed your species' conflicts. You employ chaotic methodologies, unpredictable responses, strategies that often seem counterproductive yet achieve unexpected results. We call it thinking outside the box," said Okafor. "Your box is precisely what we need," replied Zyvex. "The Void Swarm operates on pattern recognition. It learns, adapts, and overcomes any consistent approach. Our civilization built its supremacy on technological perfection. Consistent, predictable, optimized. Against the Swarm, these became weaknesses." The Nerethi commander gestured, and the view screen split to show tactical data. "We have retreated to our core worlds. The Swarm advances on all fronts. It learns from each encounter, improving its countermeasures. What worked yesterday fails today." Dr. Elena Rice, the Prometheus's chief scientist, studied the data scrolling past. "This isn't just adaptation," she remarked. "The Swarm isn't just learning your weapons. It's learning how your species thinks." "Precisely," acknowledged Zyvex, "which is why we need a species that thinks irrationally." Admiral Chen, who had insisted on joining the mission despite his initial skepticism, stepped forward. Commander, we'll need to analyze your previous encounters with this enemy. Every tactic you've tried, successful or not. For the next several days, humanity's representatives immersed themselves in near-Earth battle records. The Void Swarm was like nothing Earth's military minds had ever conceived, not truly alive in any conventional sense, but demonstrating intelligence and learning capacity that bordered on the supernatural. It appeared as a semi-solid darkness that could disperse into particle form to avoid damage, then reconstitute to attack. It consumed energy, matter, and information indiscriminately. Most disturbing was its adaptation rate. The Near-Earth had deployed a resonance cannon that shattered the swarm's cohesion on first use. By the third deployment, the swarm had developed vibration-dampening structures. Energy shields lasted 2 engagements before the swarm simply flowed through the frequencies. Predictive targeting algorithms worked briefly until the swarm started moving in genuinely random patterns. "They're too perfect," muttered Lieutenant Commander Aisha Khan, Earth's foremost expert in guerrilla warfare, as she reviewed the Near-Earth battle tactics. Every maneuver executed flawlessly, every ship in perfect formation, every strategy optimized with near-mathematical precision. "And that's exactly the problem," added Chief Engineer Diego Mendez. "They fight like machines, efficient but predictable. The swarm just needs to solve the equation once." Captain Okafor gathered her team after 4 days of analysis. "Assessment," she demanded simply. Dr. Reyes spoke first. "The Void Swarm isn't supernatural. It's using quantum entanglement for instant communication between its components, allowing it to adapt collectively and instantly. Conventional warfare is useless. It will always adapt faster than we can innovate." "So what's our approach?" asked Okafor. A slow smile spread across Lieutenant Commander Khan's face. "We make warfare unconventional. We introduce chaos into the battlefield. The swarm learns by identifying patterns. Let's show it that humans don't always follow patterns." "That's our edge," agreed Admiral Chen, who had become increasingly convinced of humanity's unique advantage. "The Near-Earth fight with perfect logic. We fight with instinct, improvisation, and sometimes outright madness." Captain Okafor nodded slowly. "Prepare a demonstration for the Near-Earth. Show them what humanity brings to this fight." 2 days later, the remaining Near-Earth fleet commanders gathered virtually to witness humanity's proposed strategy. They watched in confusion as Earth's representatives outlined battle plans that seemed nonsensical by their standards. Feints that exposed vulnerabilities, formations with deliberate weak points, and technologies deliberately designed with randomized performance parameters. "This is madness," declared one Near-Earth commander. "You propose to introduce inefficiency into combat operations. We propose to introduce unpredictability," corrected Admiral Chen. "Your enemy expects patterns. We'll give it chaos." High Commander Zivex, who had been silent throughout the presentation, finally spoke. "Your species proposes to do deliberately what we would consider failure." "Sometimes," replied Captain Okafor, "you have to fail in unexpected ways to ultimately succeed." The Near-Earth commanders exchanged glances with their 4-eyed expressions unreadable to human observers. Finally, Zivex made a gesture of acquiescence. "Very well. We have exhausted all conventional options. We will follow humanity's lead in this battle." As the human team returned to the Prometheus to begin preparations, Lieutenant Commander Khan pulled Captain Okafor aside. "They're still not grasping what makes us different," she said quietly. "They think we're just proposing tactical variations. They don't understand that human unpredictability goes deeper." Okafor nodded grimly. "They'll understand soon enough. When the Void Swarm encounters humanity for the first time, they'll see exactly what we're capable of." What the Near-Earth didn't yet realize was that humanity had already begun implementing their most radical strategies, including several they hadn't shared with their alien allies. The Prometheus's engineers had been working around the clock, building devices that operated on principles that would horrify the logic-driven Near-Earth. As the combined fleet prepared for the coming battle, The darkness of the void swarm approached the outer defense perimeter. Humanity was about to introduce itself to the galaxy's greatest threat, and nothing would ever be the same again. Humanity unchained. The void swarm arrived exactly as the Nerethi had predicted, a churning mass of darkness that seemed to devour light itself. It flowed through space like liquid shadow, probing the defense perimeter with tendrils of midnight that tested for weaknesses. The combined human Nerethi fleet held position in a formation that had been the subject of heated debate among the alien commanders. "This is most irregular," Sub-Commander Telvix had protested during the final strategy session. "Your proposed formation leaves deliberate gaps in our coverage." "That's the point," Lieutenant Commander Khan had replied with a predatory smile. "We want them to think they found weaknesses." Now, as the void swarm approached, those apparent weaknesses drew its attention exactly as humanity had anticipated. The darkness surged forward, concentrating its mass toward the gaps in the defensive line. "The enemy is responding as predicted," reported Commander Jackson from his tactical station on the Prometheus. "They're taking the bait." Captain Okafor nodded, her expression grim. "Commence Operation Chaotic Response." The order rippled through the human vessels, and what followed left the Nerethi observers in stunned silence. The Earth ships broke formation, not in retreat, but in a bewildering array of seemingly random movements. Some accelerated directly toward the swarm, others spun on their axes while firing in unpredictable patterns, and still others shut down all systems only to reactivate seconds later in different configurations. "What are they doing?" demanded High Commander Zyvex over the comm channel. "This isn't the strategy we discussed." Admiral Chen's voice was calm as he responded. "Actually, Commander, this is exactly what we discussed. Controlled chaos. The void swarm expects logical responses. We're giving it madness." The first human weapons hit the swarm, not the precisely calibrated energy beams favored by the Nerethi, but crude, modified nuclear devices that detonated with deliberately randomized yields. The explosions tore holes in the darkness, gaps that didn't immediately close as the swarm struggled to analyze the unpredictable attack pattern. "Second wave, engage," ordered Okafor. Earth's engineers had cobbled together what they called quantum noise generators, devices that produced energy signatures that were truly random at the quantum level, impossible to predict even with the most advanced algorithms. The swarm recoiled from these emissions, portions of its mass writhing as if in pain. "It's working," exclaimed Dr. Reyes, monitoring the battle from the science station. "The swarm can't predict the quantum noise. It disrupts its entanglement network." For the first time, in over a year of devastating conflict, the Nerethi witnessed the void swarm in retreat. The darkness pulled back, fragments of its mass detaching as it attempted to adapt. But the human ships pressed the advantage with bewildering tactics, some deliberately taking damage to get into position for devastating counterpunches, others flying erratic patterns that no logical mind would consider optimal. High Commander Zivex's voice held a note of wonder. "Your species fights like nothing we have ever witnessed. There is no discernible pattern to your movements." "That's because we're not all following the same playbook," replied Admiral Chen. "Each ship commander has authority to improvise within mission parameters." The Nerethi commander's confusion was evident. "But how do you coordinate?" "We don't, not in the way you mean," said Okafor. "We adapt to each other in real time. It's messier than your method, but the swarm can't predict what we ourselves don't know we're going to do next." The battle raged for hours, the void swarm struggling to counter tactics that shifted constantly. Just when it adapted to one approach, the human vessels would switch to something entirely different. The Nerethi ships, following humanity's lead with growing confidence, began to incorporate elements of unpredictability into their own maneuvers. But the void swarm was still learning, still adapting. Its retreat had been tactical, not a rout, and now it was returning with new configurations, formations that seemed designed to counter the chaotic human approach. "It's adapting again," warned Dr. Reyes. "Our advantage won't last." Chief Engineer Mendez had anticipated this. Time for Phase 2, he announced, activating a system they had kept secret even from their Near-Earth allies. The Prometheus and 3 other Earth vessels suddenly emitted massive electromagnetic pulses, not aimed at the swarm, but at their own ships and the nearby Near-Earth vessels. Systems flickered and reset across the fleet. "What have you done?" demanded Zyvex as half her ship's systems went dark. "Changed the game," replied Mendez. "We just scrambled our own combat algorithms. We're fighting blind now, and so is the swarm." The tactic was unprecedented in the history of warfare. The human ships had deliberately compromised their own systems, forcing their crews to rely on manual control and visual targeting. No computer predictions, no automated responses, just human instinct and skill. The Void Swarm, which had been adapting to increasingly sophisticated patterns, now faced an enemy that had seemingly regressed to primitive combat techniques. Its advantage in prediction rendered temporarily useless. The swarm faltered. "All ships, advance," ordered Okafor. "Hit them with everything. No coordination, no patterns." What followed was a combat spectacle that would be studied for centuries to come. Human ships maneuvering on manual controls, firing weapons with timing determined by individual gunners' instincts rather than computerized targeting. Near-Earth vessels, following humanity's lead, introduced deliberate variability into their own attack patterns. Lieutenant Commander Khan watched the battle unfold with fierce satisfaction. "Look at them," she said, indicating the Near-Earth ships. "They're learning to fight like humans." Indeed, the once perfect formations of the Near-Earth fleet had dissolved into something more organic, more adaptable. Ships moved with individualized patterns, captains making tactical decisions that sometimes contradicted orthodox doctrine, but confused the enemy. The Void Swarm retreated again, more substantially this time, pulling back to regroup and analyze this bewildering new approach. For the first time since the conflict began, the Near-Earth had won a decisive engagement without losing a single capital ship. In the aftermath, Earth's representatives met with the Near-Earth command aboard their flagship. The mood was cautiously optimistic, though the alien commanders maintained their characteristic restraint. "Your tactics achieved what our finest military minds could not," acknowledged High Commander Zyvex. "But the swarm will adapt again. It always does." "Then we'll change again," replied Admiral Chen. "That's humanity's greatest strength. We don't just adapt to circumstances. We transform them." Dr. Reyes stepped forward, displaying data from the battle. "We've analyzed the swarm's behavior. It's learning more slowly now, struggling with the unpredictability we've introduced. But there's something else. It has a central intelligence, a core that coordinates the adaptation process." Captain Okafor leaned forward. "You're saying there's a brain we can target?" "Not exactly a brain," corrected Reyes. "More like a primary processing node. The entanglement network has a hub. Destroy that, and the swarm's adaptation rate would plummet." The revelation changed everything. For the first time, the Near-Earth and humans had a strategic target rather than just fighting an amorphous enemy. The problem, as always, was reaching it. The swarm's core was buried deep within its mass, protected by layers of its most advanced defensive configurations. "A direct assault would fail," stated Sub-Commander Telvix flatly. "The core would predict our approach and adapt its defenses." Lieutenant Commander Khan smiled. "So we don't approach directly. We give it something so unexpected, so contrary to logical combat doctrine, that it can't possibly predict our true objective." The plan that emerged over the next days was so audacious that several Near-Earth commanders refused to participate, claiming it violated every principle of sound strategy. Instead of attacking with overwhelming force, humanity proposed a seemingly suicidal approach. A small team would allow themselves to be captured by the swarm, carrying with them a device the human engineers called the Pandora Protocol. "The swarm absorbs technology and information," explained Chief Engineer Mendez to the skeptical alien commanders. "It will take our ship, our systems, and try to analyze them for adaptation purposes. When it connects to the Pandora protocol, the program will activate. "And what exactly does this protocol do?" asked Zyvex. Mendez exchanged glances with Dr. Reyes before answering. "It's a self-modifying code that rewrites itself randomly every nanosecond. The swarm will try to analyze it, to find patterns where none exist. While it's distracted trying to solve an unsolvable puzzle, a second team will strike at the core." Captain Okafor volunteered to lead the diversionary team herself, despite Admiral Chen's objections. The mission would require someone who could make unpredictable decisions on the fly, keeping the swarm's attention focused on the Pandora protocol rather than the true attack. As preparations for the mission continued, the relationship between humans and Nirathi evolved. The aliens who had once viewed Earth's species with barely concealed condescension now sought human insights, recognizing that their logical perfection had become a liability against an enemy that learned from patterns. "Your species has achieved in weeks what we could not in years," admitted High Commander Zyvex in a private meeting with Captain Okafor. "We believed our technological superiority made us unassailable. We never considered that our greatest strength could become our greatest weakness." Okafor nodded. "Every species has blind spots, Commander. Yours was believing that perfection equals invincibility. Ours was thinking we weren't ready for the stars. It seems we both had something to learn." The day of the operation arrived with grim determination. Captain Okafor's team boarded a specially modified shuttle, the Pandora protocol secured in its central computer core. The device itself was a masterpiece of human ingenuity, part computer virus, part quantum computation experiment, designed to be the most unpredictable system ever created. "Remember," Dr. Reyes reminded them before departure, "the protocol will draw the swarm's attention, but you'll need to keep it engaged. Be unpredictable. Make decisions that defy logic. The longer you confuse it, the better chance the strike team has." Admiral Chen clasped Okafor's arm in the Earth military's traditional gesture of respect. "Give them hell, Captain." The mission launched with deliberate mistakes, navigation errors, communication glitches, all designed to make the approach appear unplanned and chaotic. The Void Swarm, having retreated to reorganize after the previous battle, detected the apparently vulnerable shuttle and moved to intercept. "It's taking the bait," reported Commander Jackson from the Prometheus, which monitored from a safe distance. "The swarm is diverting significant resources to analyze the shuttle." Tendrils of darkness wrapped around Okafor's vessel, probing its systems, seeking to understand its purpose. The moment the swarm accessed the ship's central computer, the Pandora protocol activated, flooding the enemy with quantum noise, self-modifying algorithms, and logic paradoxes designed to consume its analytical capacity. From the shuttle's cockpit, Okafor and her team could see the darkness around them pulse and writhe as the swarm struggled to process the incomprehensible data it had absorbed. "It's working," she reported. "The swarm is fixated on us. Launch the strike team." From the shadow of a nearby moon, a stealth vessel carrying Lieutenant Commander Khan and a joint human Nirathi strike team accelerated toward the swarm's newly identified core. Their ship, designed with the most chaotic energy signature Earth's engineers could devise, slipped through the distracted swarm's outer defenses. "We're approaching the core perimeter," reported Khan. "Most of its processing power is still focused on the Pandora protocol, but it's starting to recover. We need more distraction." Captain Okafor didn't hesitate. "Initiating emergency core breach," she announced, deliberately destabilizing her shuttle's power system. The resulting energy flare was like catnip to the swarm, which immediately diverted more resources to contain and analyze the unexpected development. Meanwhile, Khan's team reached the core, a pulsating concentration of the swarm's mass that glowed with an inner light as it processed information at unimaginable speeds. They deployed their payload, not a conventional weapon, but a device that generated truly random quantum fluctuations at a rate that would overwhelm even the swarm's adaptive capabilities. "The quantum disruptor is active," reported Khan. "Evacuating now." The effect was immediate and catastrophic for the Void Swarm. Its core, unable to process the genuine randomness flooding its systems, began to lose cohesion. The darkness that had consumed countless worlds started to fragment, its components losing the perfect coordination that had made it so deadly. Okefir's shuttle, systems failing as the swarm's grip tightened in its death throes, launched emergency escape pods. "Get us out of here," she ordered as the darkness around them convulsed violently. The combined fleet moved in, exploiting the swarm's disarray with the chaotic tactics that had proven so effective. This time, there was no adaptation, no learning, only disintegration as the entity that had threatened galactic civilization came apart at the seams. When it was over, when the last remnants of the Void Swarm had been neutralized, the Nerethi fleet surrounded the returning human vessels in a formation that their cultural attaches identified as their highest ceremonial honor. High Commander Zivix herself came aboard the Prometheus to formally recognize humanity's contribution. "Your species has saved not only the Nerethi Dominion, but countless other civilizations that would have fallen to the swarm," she stated, her voice carrying the closest approximation to emotion that her species could express. "The galaxy owes you a debt that cannot be measured." Admiral Chen accepted the acknowledgement with characteristic human humility. "We did what anyone would do when called upon for help. We just happened to be exactly what was needed in this fight." "That is precisely what makes your species remarkable," replied Zyvex. "You are chaotic, unpredictable, sometimes irrational. Qualities our civilization has always viewed as weaknesses. Yet in this conflict, they became your greatest strengths. Perhaps there is wisdom in imperfection that we have yet to understand." In the days that followed, as the Prometheus prepared to return to Earth, the relationship between humans and Nerethi evolved further. The aliens who had once sought humanity's help out of desperate necessity now proposed a formal alliance, not as patrons to a developing species, but as equals with complementary strengths and perspectives. Captain Okafor, standing on the observation deck of the Prometheus as final preparations for departure were completed, found herself joined by Lieutenant Commander Khan. "So," said Khan, "not bad for humanity's first interstellar conflict." Okafor smiled slightly. "Let's hope they're not all like this." "They won't be," replied Khan confidently. "Word travels fast in the galaxy. The next time some advanced civilization looks at Earth and thinks primitive, they'll remember what happened when the Nerethi asked for our help." As the Prometheus activated its full drive for the journey home, carrying with it technological gifts from the grateful Nerethi and the seeds of humanity's new role in galactic affairs, Earth remained blissfully unaware of how drastically its future had changed. The species that had believed itself alone in the universe had not only discovered intelligent alien life, but had saved it from extinction. Humanity had been called upon for help, and in response, had unleashed something the galaxy had never seen before, not just destruction, but glorious, unpredictable, creative chaos that had turned the tide against an unbeatable enemy. The message being carried back to the stars was clear: underestimate humans at your peril. For in the vast cosmic game where perfect logic had failed, humanity's beautiful imperfection had proven to be the winning move.